Hello guys, my name is Nelson.
And my name is Bruno.
And welcome to our talk show season 2 episode regarding user stories. So Bruno, question for you, if you want to. I'm taking that because Steve Krago, he told me, hey, why don't you guys start doing some powerful questions? And I know this one is not powerful questions, but it's a moment to practice.
Makes sense.
So what do you think about user stories, if you want to? Then we can go to our paper. Let's do differently.
I think user stories are a very easy and guided method to understanding what a client needs or your user needs. So you define who they are and what they need so you can achieve something. It's a very simple way to break it down, a need versus a goal, and put it all together. I think it's easy to use.
I like that, but sometimes before we go to the theory what represent user stories, I think that it's just you guys to think about it, just to think. Today, as we are not, the schools sometimes teach people how to write, but when you are in the office and you start to work, and I think that too much cell phones where you make texts shorter to make it easier and faster, I think that people are losing the ability to write a good story, in a way that you will understand in a few words or a few lines what does represent the story or the request, right? Mm-hmm. And imagine that we are talking about distributed teams where sometimes you're not able to speak and you're gonna send a message, or maybe by email or whatever, which English sometimes is not the first language, so you need to be very careful about the stories.
Yeah.
But taking as Bruno said, and I took a note, because user stories is something that operations sometimes doesn't touch base level in stories, but it makes sense.
Oh, right? Now it doesn't, so that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right now, when we are managing projects or non-managing projects, using that level of details, maybe some people are, but not generally. You don't see that in operations. So I see it as an opportunity. Why not break down a project into stories? And I mean, some projects, I've seen some projects, but not teams.
But I do see, and I agree with that, because I do see people, asking questions to better understand the request. So they are enforcing, the requester, to provide more details. Right. So maybe next time, as part of Shuhahi, they are trying to, make requests in a clear way. People will understand better what is the meaning of their request. As you said, what is the user or the client expecting by their request? Right. What will be built for that? So I took some notes about what a user story is. So it is a short and simple description of a product feature. Agree with that?
Yeah, from an end user perspective.
From an end user perspective.
Always.
It tells, and here it comes, told from the perspective of the user who wants that feature. What do you say?
Okay, the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And told us as potential or existing user as a product or a service. So I think that, as you said, user story is pretty much related no matter what. If it is a product or a service, it is a way to describe whatever the user is looking for. I'm not sure if...
Not necessarily looking for, because that, I think you're right, but I wouldn't say looking for, because for me that means more what they want and not what they need. So I think that's an interesting part of a product owner responsibility, which is breaking down the request, right, from the requirements and requests from the client into something they actually need versus their desires. Desires, all the MVP stuff.
True.
What I want versus what I really need. So I think the user stories help. This whole format helps to make that easier.
Cool.
for product owners and for clients to communicate as well.
And also always pushing to make many questions so you can clear it out any questions you might have. So because after that we need to understand that the user stories allow you to define the product backlog. Right.
Yes.
Because that's why it's so important that you stress as much as you can to understand the requirements, because once it goes to the the backlog, the product backlog, the team and the product owner will have the ability to prioritize based on what needs to be done. Right.
So that's very important. The user stories is what ultimately will feed into the work. But depending on the level of details, technical details, a product owner can have assistance from the team to improve on the user stories.
And maybe the product owner is not that technical.
Right.
That's why
that's why they help
end-to-end communications and clarity that both sides will understand their requirements.
Right.
So I think that we could cover a little bit about what is a user story. So how do we write that?
Right. So it's 3 phases, right? So we define the type of the user,
the persona,
right? Not in that level, but the persona. Then what they need and why they need it. Is it?
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
So I put a note, how do we write a story? So I, as an user, which is the persona, I want a feature so I can satisfy a need. So it's pretty much based on that structure. You got the persona, you got the feature, and the need to satisfy somebody.
Yeah, the goal. Yeah.
And I found that because we need to understand that after the stories, it comes the epic, and then comes the tasks. But we won't go that deep because the topic here is about user stories. So I found out some example for Airbnb as a way they wrote down the stories. So the user write down this: I want to find holiday destination and travel abroad. So this is abroad. My English sucks.
No, it doesn't.
So that one is like a very big epic.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So then I will give you another epic, then we go to a story so you can better understand that. So as a user, I want to discover new and interesting destination. So it's pretty big story, right? As we call epic. But how they break that in stories. So as a user, I want to be recommended destinations in interesting. So based on your type of level, how much you manage the tool, based on your likes or whatever, it will give you
experience.
It will give you experience. As a user, another one, I want to be recommended based on location. So there is another way that you can break down an epic in small stories, so it clarify and give you direction to the team in order to build that something. There is a lot of other ones here, but
oh, those are cool. So 9 minutes.
Oh, but we have started after 4 minutes.
No, we have not.
Yeah.
No, 1 minute. I stopped the clock. So the last thing is, so what's the difference between an epic and a story is all about size. So the Scrum defines as an iteration as one cycle, right? So if your cycle is 2 weeks, then a story is deliverable. You can finish that one in one iteration. So if you have a story that you cannot finish in one iteration based on the inputs of your team, then that's not a story. That's an epic.
Yeah, I would say to summarize, an user story should be not bigger than an iteration.
Yeah, that's it.
Period.
So it's all about size. So that was user stories. We're still pursuing a better time box for you guys.
To talk.
But it's a lot better. It's half of what we were doing before.
And
so I'm happy.
I feel like I'm well dressed.
Yeah, you are. I wish I could wear those clothes in summertime because
We have air conditioning.
I'm sweating. I'm
Me
still
too.
sweating. That's
Okay, guys.
That
So
was cool.
see you next time.
Alright, guys.
Take care.
Be careful with the fireball.